So the question, did Donald Trump say that Mexicans are rapists? Or that all Mexicans are rapists and drug dealers? And the answer is no. No, he did not. And if you think that he did, it's because possibly you've been deceived. Or maybe you didn't actually hear what he said, or your reading comprehension level is somewhere below like 5th grade, maybe. Let's take a look and see what he actually said. Okay. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best, first of all. Okay, so that means they're sending their worst. If I told you, if you came to visit me in Thailand, and I said, what do you think about the weather? And you said, well, it's not the coldest country I've ever been to. You wouldn't mean that it's the 2nd coldest country you've ever been to, or the 3rd coldest country. You are saying that it's really, really freaking hot. That's what you're saying. So when he says they're not sending their best, he obviously means they're sending their worst. They're not sending you. Now that's talking to his supporters. He's, so he's saying the supporters are the best. Great. Okay. Now, you could say that there's a bit of a conspiracy theory going on here, that Mexico is intentionally sending their worst. Maybe he believes that they are, maybe he can't support that, or he can. I'm not covering that in this. Okay, next. They're sending people who have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems to us. Okay? So we've already determined that he thinks Mexico are sending their worst, and then those people who they are sending, not all Mexicans, the people who they are sending, according to Donald Trump, that are the worst, have a lot of problems and are bringing those problems to us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Okay, so the first part, you cannot disconnect from the second part. You have to read them together. The first part, when Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're sending people who have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems to us. That's very clear who he's talking about. He's not talking about Mexicans in general, or all Mexicans. He's talking about what, in his opinion, are the worst, the worst Mexicans on offer, that the Mexicans are sending to the United States, I guess maybe to get them off their, so they're not dependent on Mexico, so that Mexico doesn't have to take care of them, so that they can just, send their problem to the United States. You'd have to ask Donald Trump exactly why he thinks they're doing that, but that's who he's talking about. The next part is directly talking about those people. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. Now he's getting a bit heavy here, so he's just talking off the cuff. In his head he's thinking, oh, maybe I'm getting a bit harsh. This is Donald Trump trying to soften it up a little bit. And some, I assume, are good people. So, is this a smart thing to say? No, not really. Is it sensitive? No, it's insensitive, it's bombastic, it's not very wise. He's just talking, he's just bullshitting. He's not thinking clearly about exactly what he means to say and putting it in precise language that you can't really parse to try to turn it into something else. He's just talking. But if you look at this, you cannot read this whole paragraph and think that Donald Trump said Mexicans are rapists. Now, let's analyze it a little bit. So, maybe they're not sending their worst, but generally the people who are going to be illegally crossing a border, right, are not going to be the creme de la creme of the society who are doing very well. They're not doing well. That's part of the reason they're crossing the border. Now, some of them, he says, some of them I assume are good people. Okay, I grew up in government housing in Visalia, California. The next apartment next to me was an illegal alien jumping ground where basically there were some people who rented it. They would bring in, half a dozen illegal Mexicans at a time, and they would teach them how to get by in the U.S. They'd be there about a week, 2 weeks, and they would go on to some other place, and they'd have a new batch come in, and so on and so forth. Now, yes, some of them, I would say more than some of them, were good people. I thought the Mexicans that came from Mexico, by and large, were very family-oriented. They just tried to lay low. They didn't try to make trouble. They didn't want to attract attention to themselves. But you can't deny that of the people who are coming, a lot of it is at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder in Mexico, and therefore must have a higher rate of crime. I mean, in every single country it's that way, right? So there's higher level of drug addiction, higher level of crime, probably more mental illness. I mean, you can't really deny that. So what he's saying, in essence, is true. I would say more than some of them are good people. I would say a good number, the majority of Mexican illegal immigrants that come to the United States are good people. But that doesn't mean that just every good person in the world should go to the best country. And there's no way the United States can accommodate every person who would do well by coming to the United States. It's just not possible. So the question is it good for the United States? We should obviously know who's coming into the United States. It just seems very basic. And to me, it seems a lot of it is a sort of like a class conflict. You've got middle and upper middle class people talking about saying that the working class, the American poor and working poor, who are concerned about their labor being devalued by a bunch of immigrants coming from another country who are maybe unskilled and who are suited, because of being unskilled, are suited to do this sort of working class jobs, that their labor is being undervalued. And so they're concerned about that, and they would like to stop the flow of people coming from this less developed country. And then the middle and upper middle class are telling them that they're morally bad, that they're immoral people to want to try to preserve their earning power. And I see that's a lot of what it is. And a lot of the people who talk about how it's so wrong to have a wall, they live in gated communities. They wouldn't want to invite these people into their home. They wouldn't say, hey, you know what, just give me 3 illegal immigrants, I'll take them into my home. I don't need to know who they are, where they came from. Just give me 3. I got an extra room, they can all sleep in there. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't want their school that they send their children to have an influx of people who don't speak English, putting an incredible burden on the teachers to try to accommodate 2 languages and try to catch up these kids with these kids, and that's not something they would want for their kids. And so to me, a lot of it seems like a class thing. It's a class thing. Like, you should live with this influx of people from a different culture with a different language who undervalue who decrease the value of your labor, and we should be able to maintain our level of existence here while you suffer from that. I think there should be a policy where an unlimited number of illegal immigrants should be allowed into the United States who are journalists, college professors, and baristas for coffee shops. Let an unlimited number of them go into the United States and take over all those jobs. Anyway, so in the end, no, Donald Trump did not say that all illegal immigrants, did not say that Mexicans are rapists and drug dealers. He's specifically talking about illegal immigrants. He has a dim view of illegal immigrants. Maybe he's wrong on that. Maybe you like or don't like Donald Trump. If you don't like Donald Trump, there are lots and lots of things that you can use to criticize him. Probably daily, there are things you can use to criticize him. Let's not create things and use propaganda to criticize people. Criticize them on what they actually said. If you believe you know his heart, you know what he actually meant, and what he believes in his heart, that he's racist and he hates Mexican people, that's up to you. Maybe you have some sort of mental magic powers where you can determine that. I don't. I go by what he said. This is what he said, and he did not say that Mexicans are rapists or all Mexicans are rapists. Didn't say it. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.